They say money makes money, that the rich keep getting richer. But why? Why does it feel like wealth suddenly takes off once you cross a certain number? For most people, it is after your first 100,000. For Warren Buffett, that number was $105,000. The amount he used to start his first investment partnership in 1956. It wasn't inherited wealth. It wasn't luck. It was the tipping point. The moment when compounding stopped crawling and started running. This is the story of why your net worth explodes after $100,000 and how Buffett turned his own $100,000 seed into billions. In 1956, a 25-year-old Buffett gathered 7 partners inside a small office in Omaha. They pooled together $105,000. Buffett contributed only $100 of his own money. The rest came from trust and reputation. But what happened next wasn't magic, it was math. Magnified by time, patience, and emotional control. Buffett often said, life is like a snowball. The important thing is finding wet snow in a really long hill. That $105,000 was his first snowball. And the hill? Time. Most people think hitting 6 figures unlocks secret investment doors, insider deals, exclusive opportunities. But the truth is simpler and more powerful. At $100,000, scale begins to work for you. Imagine this. A $1,000 investment at 10% returns $100 profit. A $10,000 investment at 10% returns $1,000. A $100,000 investment, that same 10% gives you $10,000. Same skill, same risk, 10 times the reward. That's the quiet force behind the rich getting richer. Scale. When Buffett's early partnership doubled, he didn't have to work twice as hard. His capital worked harder for him. That's when money stops being a tool you use and starts becoming an employee that works while you sleep. Warren Buffett didn't invent compounding. He simply refused to break it. In his 20s, when most people were chasing the next paycheck or the next thrill, he was chasing the effect of time on capital. Every dollar that flowed into his first partnership was treated like a seed. Never eaten, always replanted. He didn't take profits to upgrade his car or his clothes. He recycled them back into the machine. Between 1956 and 1962, that small partnership fund, just $105,000, quietly grew into $7.2 million. No viral moment, no big win. Just 6 years of steady reinvestment and emotional restraint. Buffett's genius wasn't in picking spectacular stocks. It was in not interrupting a good process. He understood something most investors still don't. Compounding doesn't reveal its power in the early chapters. It hides it. At the beginning, growth feels painfully slow, like pushing a boulder uphill. You save, you invest, and your progress looks flat. But somewhere around that first 100,000, the slope shifts. Returns begin to build on top of past returns. The boulder starts to move under its own weight. If you've ever rolled a snowball, you know how it goes. It doesn't grow because you're rolling faster. It grows because it's sticking to everything it touches. That's how capital behaves once it's large enough. It begins to attract more of itself. Dividends create more shares. Profits buy more assets. Interest earns more interest. Buffett once said, money is like gravity. It has mass. And mass attracts mass. That's the hidden law of compounding. Wealth at scale pulls more wealth toward it. Not because the person suddenly got smarter, but because the system they built has become self-sustaining. That's what Buffett discovered early. When you protect your compounding from impatience, from distraction, from ego, it stops needing you. And that's when wealth begins to feel less like effort and more like momentum. But why is the first $100,000 the hardest? Because you don't yet have the engine of compounding behind it. In Buffett's words, the first $100,000 is a bitch, but you gotta do it. I don't care what you have to do. Walk everywhere and save that $100,000. Before that milestone, your effort does most of the lifting. Every dollar feels heavy. Every small gain feels like it moves nothing. But once you reach that threshold, your capital starts lifting with you. It begins to produce its own offspring. Interest on interest, returns on returns. And soon, wealth stops being a goal. It becomes a process. The real trick wasn't that Buffett was smarter than everyone. It's that he started early and never interrupted compounding. Had Buffett started investing at 35 instead of 11, his net worth today wouldn't be in the billions. He often says if he'd stopped compounding at 65, he'd be worth a fraction of what he is now. From $105,000 in 1956, he was able to have a net worth of $1 million in 1960, of $25 million in 1969, and by 2024, over $130 billion. That's not 70 years of genius. That's 70 years of letting compounding do its work. So what can you do if you haven't reached $100,000 yet? Two things: time and contribution. Start early and stay invested. The earlier you start, the longer your hill of snow. Even a small $500 monthly investment compounds into hundreds of thousands over decades. Increase how much you can invest. Don't chase 1% better returns. Chase 100% better income. Buffett didn't hunt for exotic investments. He focused on increasing capital and reinvesting it consistently. When you grow your earning power, your compounding accelerates. Because remember, compounding only matters if you have something to compound. Buffett's story isn't just about numbers. It's about patience, discipline, and time. He showed that the first $100,000 isn't a finish line. It's the ignition switch. Once you hit it, your wealth curve stops being a straight line and becomes a rocket. Because money, just like momentum, obeys the laws of compounding. And as Buffett proved, the longer you stay on the hill, the bigger your snowball becomes.